If your practice still thinks HIPAA security is mostly paperwork, the 2026 HIPAA security rule changes that fast. This is not a small update. It moves security from flexible interpretation to clearer, stricter requirements. For years, healthcare organizations lived with a lot of gray area. Some safeguards were called addressable. In plain English, that often meant you could decide how to handle them, or justify not doing them at all. The problem is that cyber attacks do not care about gray areas. Attackers look for the easiest opening: a reused password, a missing control, a lost device. The 2026 rule responds to that reality. It says the basics of security are no longer optional judgment calls. They are the minimum standard. Why does that matter? Because healthcare data is deeply personal and highly valuable. A stolen medical record can create damage that lasts far longer than a stolen credit card. And for a practice, one breach can bring downtime, patient distrust, legal exposure, and a costly recovery. Here is the simplest way to understand the change. Think of the old rule like a building code that suggested certain safety features. The new rule is much closer to saying these protections must be installed and they must work. The biggest shift is the end of addressable safeguards. That means less room to say, we considered it but chose not to implement it. If a safeguard is required, you need it in place. Then come the headline changes. Encryption is mandatory. That means protected health information must be unreadable to anyone who is not authorized to see it. If a laptop is lost or data is intercepted, encryption turns usable information into nonsense. It is the difference between dropping a stack of open charts and dropping a locked box. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is also mandatory. MFA means using more than one proof that a person is really who they claim to be. A password plus a phone prompt is a common example. That extra step matters because passwords are stolen all the time. MFA adds one more locked door between an attacker and your systems. The rule also speeds everything up. Certain incidents now have to be reported within 72 hours. That deadline matters because delay makes damage spread. The longer an intrusion sits unnoticed, the more time it has to move through systems, expose records, and make cleanup harder. And the compliance window is shorter than it sounds. Organizations get 240 days to meet the new standard. That is not much time. Policies need updating. Systems need changes. Vendors need coordination. Staff need training. If you wait, the deadline gets close very quickly. Now make it concrete. Imagine a small clinic with an EHR, email, laptops, phones, and a billing vendor. Under the old mindset, security might be uneven. Some devices are encrypted, some are not. MFA is on for one system but missing from another. The incident plan exists, but nobody has practiced it. Under the 2026 rule, that patchwork has to disappear. The clinic needs a reliable baseline. Encrypt the devices. Turn on MFA where it belongs. Know what happens when something suspicious appears. Know who responds, who reports, and how fast that process starts. Make sure vendors handling protected data fit into that security picture too. That is the real point of this update. It is not just about passing an audit. It is about closing the gap between compliance on paper and security in practice. Before, some organizations treated HIPAA like documentation with a little technology attached. Now, the technical controls are front and center. If you run a healthcare practice, the best response is not panic. It is prioritization. Confirm encryption. Confirm MFA. Review your incident reporting process. Check how quickly your team can detect, escalate, and document a problem. Then look for weak links between people, systems, and vendors. In a way, the new rule is doing something simple. It is catching HIPAA up to the world we actually live in. A world of ransomware, phishing, remote work, cloud software, and non-stop credential theft. The old gray areas were built for a different era. This rule is built for this one. So here is the takeaway. The 2026 HIPAA security rule moves healthcare security from flexible recommendations to required readiness. Less ambiguity, more accountability, faster response. Stronger baseline protection. And if you remember one thing, remember this. The question is no longer whether a safeguard seems reasonable. The question is whether your practice has it in place before the deadline, before the incident, and before a patient's trust is on the line.